What's poppin', everybody? Hello and welcome to Popcorn Culture. My name is Ben Carlin and I am your host. Here with me today is my brother Jay, who will be in every episode.
Yeah, does it feel good being the host again, Ben?
It does feel good. It does feel good.
You had like a little month off there. To dress however you wanted.
Oh, I know. It was great. It was great. Good times to be had.
Yeah.
And now I have good incentive. Like this is the thing. This goes back to, I think I said it a couple weeks ago on the pop. It's like I want to bet against the Hokies football team.
Yeah.
So that when they let me down, at the very least, I won my bet.
Right.
So now at the very least, I have found a way to cope with not being the host because it feels like at long last, there's this like equilibrium that has been met where it's like each week when we go to record, we need to go and like actually review the books and be like, who actually is the host this
Now,
week?
wait a minute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's not, for a long time it was sort of like we just kind of like knew that the foregone conclusion was there. And now it's like, oh no, now we need to.
You know what I think it was is that I dropped the ball, and like the first couple of times I hosted, I was really good about doing a corny joke, and I didn't deliver.
Oh no.
And I think,
do you have
I
any
let down the
leftover
people.
corny jokes?
Ben, I do have a corny joke. Are you ready? It's
I'm
gonna
just-
blow your socks off. Are you ready?
I'm so excited. I didn't even like these socks today anyway.
Oh man, ready? Why did the bike fall over?
I don't know. Why did the bike fall over?
Because it was too tired.
Oh my god. Oh my god. It's barely even good.
It's fantastic. I was like, yes, this is we have to get that in there. Oh man, dude. Okay, so speaking of bikes, segue. I've been prepping for our big hike here, which as we speak is, or as you are listening to us, if you're listening to us on the day that this podcast has come out, we are likely 1 week away from being in motion, from being on the trail.
Yes. Yeah. So we're departing, I think, on the 23rd of September, maybe, of 2022. And it's I am like getting so excited, and also I'm just dreadfully nervous about it. Like I spent most of the day yesterday with GMA member Mike, and we were talking a lot about like all of our little like preparations and like tweaks and adjustments and all the various things that we're attempting to do in order to like fare better than we did last time.
Yeah.
So my current concern is that last time we went was in the middle of a hurricane.
Yeah, so that's rough.
But it was also extremely hot. So it was like very hot and then extremely wet.
Yeah, you got some big humidity problems.
Yes, exactly. So in that situation, sleeping, the real issue was just that like you got into your tent and it was just like, it was like sticky,
Mug-tastic.
I mean, like it was just gross.
Yeah.
And this go around, we're looking at the weather. We're going to have great weather, but it's actually going to be like cooler in the higher elevations while we're there. And it's kind of like, man, like, is my sleeping bag going to be sufficient? Am I going to freeze?
Am I going to be warm enough?
Yeah, what's going to happen is I'm going to solve all of my problems from last time, have like better food prepared, more like water, on the ready and stuff like that. I know where water is on the hike, so it means I don't have to carry as much in between each of the water stops and stuff. All good things. And then Alice was like, dude, if you end up getting out there and you can't sleep because you're freezing, you're going to be so mad.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is true. Now I'm torn between carrying like my heavier sleeping bag in order to like achieve warmth versus like saving like a pound of weight and potentially being cold.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Carrying 1 pound of extra weight will be way more worth not getting any sleep.
Carrying 1 pound of extra weight will be way more worth than not getting any sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. So you think go warmer?
I think if you're like really stuck on it, I would say, yeah, just go warmer on the sleeping bag.
You know what's really fascinating about hiking is that it's like it literally is almost like preparing a simulator where it's like you enter all of your variables, right? Like it's like, okay, like what if we adjust this here and a little extra power here and we'll do this there and then like you press go and like you have to like watch the rocket take off or something. Halfway through that example, it became a rocket simulator.
Yeah.
In case that wasn't obvious. And you get to see how well the rocket flies. I feel like this is exactly the case with backpacking because it's like you're putting together all of these like decisions that happen beforehand. And then like once you are out there, you have to live with those decisions for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
And the goal is to not be regretting all of your decisions.
Right.
And last time I was definitely, I had way too much weight in my pack and I was regretting the weight and all of these like extra things that I brought, you know, the entire time. Like, I don't know why I thought I needed like a full blown nacho bar out there, complete with like nacho fountain with fountain
that's too much.
Cheese. I know. Yeah.
No
it's
good.
like, I mean, literally the thing itself.
I mean, I hope you had at least enjoyed the nachos.
I didn't.
They were the worst.
They were wet. And you know what? But you know what makes melted cheese worse? Wetness.
Yeah.
It's like melted cheese is not wet.
Yeah, I don't think so. I wouldn't describe it as wet.
No, yeah, me neither.
Yeah, maybe gooey.
And yet it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
Very disappointing. Anyway, this will be your first time doing this particular hike. I've only done one, so it's not like I'm massively experienced either. But like, how are you feeling? I know you've been able to pick up some equipment this week.
Yeah, I've been going through. I think I've got all of the big pieces of equipment I will need, like the mandatory items at this point. Like, I've got my my backpack itself that came in yesterday, so that was fun. I was like opening it and going through all the pockets and like making sure I knew where all the straps were and stuff. And it's like, as soon as I put it on, I was like very happy with it. It's like, I love the way it like really hugs your waist.
Oh yeah,
which like just takes off so much of the weight already off your back. So that meant like, oh, this is good weight distribution and stuff. I like stuffed my sleeping bag in it, so I got my sleeping bag. Last night I ordered my tent and my sleeping pad. I've got a pillow and I've got the water purification system. So really, I think I've got all of the big items that I will need for the trip. At this point, it's like, I need like, you know, a headlamp and, you know, I got to put clothes in there and, you know, like a little first aid kit or something. But most of that stuff, like, I've already just sort of got around my house.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like figuring out exactly how I'm going to do my food and stuff like that. So that's mostly where my hike prep is at. Are you feeling like you've got all your gear?
I feel like I have literally printed off a checklist from like REI, which is like an outdoors retailer website. They have like a whole checklist. So I printed it off and I was like going through my pack the other day being like, okay, like what all do I have? And there's like certain areas where I was like, no, I brought this last time and I'm not bringing it again.
Yeah.
like it's just like X. So everything's looking really good. My pack, this is like the thing. It's like my pack at present is like 17 pounds.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have all of the final stuff in it or anything like that, but it's mostly like bare essentials have dropped in there. It doesn't have water weight.
Right. Yeah. The water weight is like a lot. Yeah.
Like even just like a couple liters, you're talking about like 4 pounds or something like that gets tacked on. So for me, target weight is going to be about 30 pounds that I'm hoping for. And it's been kind of fun because, Alice bought me a backpack carrier for Addison. Yeah. And so it's just like it is literally built exactly like a backpacking backpack, just instead of having like containers for your camping essentials, it just has like a big like seat for Addie to sit in.
Right.
And she weighs like at present probably like 22 pounds. The pack itself weighs like 5 pounds. So I've been going out at night like to walk the dogs and wearing Addie and trying to like get like a feel for it. And it's amazing to me how I'm like, man, this still feels heavy. It's like it's like what I'm wearing right now. And to be fair, like Addison is like, you know, a living person who's moving and wiggling around, and like, you know, like certainly like adding like a jostling element to it and stuff. But I'm like, man, this is best case scenario. And I'm only walking like, you know, 1.5 miles and I'm only doing it on reasonably flat terrain. I'm like, this is still pretty heavy. Like I can still feel some of this.
Yeah.
But I also feel like it's nice to like kind of feel like I'm like training, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I need like a Rocky montage
there you go.
where you can like,
yeah. I know. I got my my hiking. I don't know if I should call them boots or shoes. They're sort of like this like in between model, like pretty lightweight, but still like high ankle supports on the sides. And I've just been walking with them on my desk treadmill this week, trying to like break them in, making sure I'm not like going to get a bunch of blisters on the trail. Or that's like one of those like top like hiking mistakes is not breaking in your boots until you're on the trail. I was like, I'm breaking these in.
Oh my gosh. And that was the funniest thing. Yeah. Cause we went like over our lunch break one day here at the office to like grab some of these like materials and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, Jay like got like the full the full lineup of everything he needs today. And Alice was like, oh my gosh, you better break it in those shoes. And I was like, you know what's awesome is we have the walking treadmills at our desk. So it's like literally while we're just like standing there working, we're able to like, just keep chugging along.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be perfect shape.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, we've done a lot of walking over the past month.
It's true.
Yeah, our step competition lined up really nicely with going into the hike.
Oh my gosh, I know. Yeah, it ended up being absolutely perfect. We'll have to like figure out like a step competition in the future that like coincides with a hike of some kind.
Yeah.
Because like we'll be out there like with the sole intent of getting those steps in.
Getting steps in.
Put everybody to the test. See how they can do. Yeah.
This is what like part of me thinks like I assume like if you go to Disney or something for a day, it's not uncommon to end the day at like 22 to 25,000 steps or something, like if you're really moving.
It is so funny to me that Disney World is like literally like my barometer for what high impact stepping looks like, because it's like the idea of going to like Disney World is so lavish and so fun, and like it doesn't come across as this like endurance sport,
right?
But it's like there is nothing less relaxing, and this is no fault of Disney's. It's just the very nature of being at Disney. It's just not like a relaxing vacation.
No, it's like you're moving around a bunch for sure, trying to get to all the rides. Yeah, and like the Florida heat, and like I don't know how far are we moving? What's the most we're going to move in one day? Like 10 miles on this?
Yeah, I think maybe 12.
12,
which doesn't, depending on what your aptitude for hiking is, might not sound like a lot. Like through hikers, people who hike like the Appalachian Trail, or like, where they're going out and like living on the trail for months on end. Like it's not uncommon for those folks to be doing like marathon days. Yeah. Where and by that, I mean like 26 miles per day. Right. Just as sort of like standard operating procedure. So it might not sound like that much, but it's an incredibly grueling 12
miles. Yeah. Like I assume I'm imagining it takes you most of the day to cover the 12 miles. Yeah. It's not like, it's not going to go by quickly or anything. But like, if you think about that, like just going to like the step competition or something, like if you got 24,000 steps, like no doubt you moved a ton that day, but that's still about like the same number of overall steps.
That's true.
You'd think, right? The difference, of course, being that you'll be carrying your, 25 to 35 pound pack, and you'll have uneven ground, and you'll be in the woods.
Yeah, there are definitely some qualifiers there. I mean, the thing I kept thinking about is that like when we first started working out with our trainer Gabriel, he would have us do like weighted lunges with either like a barbell on our shoulders or like a couple of like kettlebells, sort of like held up, like sitting on our shoulders or something. And it's kind of like you're going down like each of these lunges, it's like, oh my gosh, like this is like it's so much extra weight, it's so much extra pain, which by the way, I feel like lunges just by themselves, just like if you're like, I don't know where to start with like working out and I would like to do something, just do lunges. Like
just lunges.
Lunges are like, I guarantee if you do 50 lunges, if you do 25 lunges and you don't regularly work out your legs, I bet you anything you will be sore the next day.
Almost for sure. That, and then tack on like 50 air squats.
Oh,
see how you feel the next day if you haven't done anything at all.
Right. Yeah. Good starting point. Just
go ahead and do it. Do it.
I do remember.
Try it right now.
Why are you listening to the podcast?
You know what? Just put us on speaker. Go ahead and do 50 air squats right now as you're listening. And then, tomorrow morning when you wake up, just send us a tweet or shoot us an email and be like, this is how I feel now. Why'd you ask me to do that?
Yeah, exactly. Of course, squat at your own risk, know your limits.
Right.
All that type of stuff. But I do remember the last go round, as I was like going up like one of like the climbs, I was like, I am just doing like weighted lunges for like mile length.
Right.
It's like,
it's a long way to go.
I know.
Yeah.
Are you planning to? Are you planning to? You have any interest in vlogging any of the experience?
I have thought about it, and like my main concern is that like I don't want to carry the camera.
I know. It's like I almost feel like at most cell phone and GoPro would be like
Yeah.
the limit for available like pieces of tech that like would be like worth the additional weight.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've talked about it so much that it's like I actually really want to share it.
Yeah.
Like what the experience is like.
Yeah, GoPro is definitely probably like the lightest option.
Yeah.
And then I guess you need some, I don't know, like batteries to sub out or something.
Inevitably,
Yeah.
GoPro batteries don't last long.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like I'm not initially planning on vlogging it. No, I mean I guess we'll have our phones with us, so there could be some of that.
Some like
for
some
sure.
check-ins.
Yeah, some check-ins, but it's not my intent to just be vlogging the whole thing. Like to me, the trip is very much more about like doing the hike and just hanging out with my friends than it is like making content.
Oh yes, okay. So I think this is another interesting one as well because I was the types of meals that I'm bringing on the trip are they're called like mountain house like trail meals, and so basically what they are is just a bunch of like freeze dried like let's see, like chicken fried rice, for example.
Right.
Would be
Add water, put in pot, add heat.
And you don't even put it in the pot. You literally pour the hot water from the pot into the container, and it cooks inside of the container itself, which is nice because then you don't have to clean your pot.
Yeah.
Because the only thing that was in it was boiling water.
Right, sure.
So,
Cool.
handy. I'll take that. But where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. So they are like, they're at least semi-expensive in terms of like cost per what it is. So like maybe like $8-9 a meal, and you need like 8 of them to get you through the whole trip. And so it's like, as I'm like going through buying like my backpacking food, it's like, man, this feels like an awful lot of money to be spending like on my backpacking food.
Yeah.
But at the same rate, I kept thinking like, you know, if we were all going to like get together and go out to like a city to hang out or something like that, or like rent like an Airbnb and go and like do like a fun dinner, find like a local brewery or whatever, I was like, I would spend that anyway. And you know, this is exactly like that. It's just instead of going to like an Airbnb in the city, we're just walking through the woods with tents.
Exactly. So yeah, totally worth it.
Hashtag justified.
Hashtag justified, man.
If you ever need to justify a purchase of any kind, just be sure to drop me a line, and I will do my absolute darndest to be like, you know what, we can do this.
You know what this is comparable to? This other thing that you definitely pay for and wouldn't think about.
Right? Yeah. It's like, no, this is no problem at all. Don't you worry. I got you. I got you.
I will say that this maybe not surprising, but like the act of getting all the gear together is not inexpensive. I will say
it's true. Yeah. Like backpacking, considering what you're doing is walking through the woods, is not on, at least in the most entry level, like is not inexpensive.
Yeah, so there has been that part of it, and even as I've like looked up stuff, it seems like a huge aspect of like the content out there that's created around preparing for backpacking trips is testing out like budget items. It's like there's this it seems like the ultimate battle with backpacking is between like how much you're willing to spend
Yes, yeah.
On like whatever the gear is. It's like, yeah, you know what? If you want a tent that weighs 1 pound, great news. It exists and it costs $500.
Right.
And you're like, oh, that's no good. Can I carry 2 more pounds for less? And you're like, yep, you can. That'll be $300, you know?
Right, yeah. And
it's like, can it be 5 pounds? It's like, it's $100. You're like, okay.
I see. And this is interesting.
This is how
works.
it goes. Yeah, it's like this is exactly, which is so weird that you're having to pay more to actually physically own less.
I know, yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. It's like you get into those like much finer like carbon fiber poles or whatever, and it's like, yeah, sure enough, it starts to like add on because everything's that much more. But it reminds me a lot, and I remember at the beginning of the pop, I used to talk about like the idea of van life as like a way of existing and feeling like, oh my gosh, like it goes back to like Fred, the One True Cup. If anybody like listening is like an OG, you know, pop listener.
No, there's people who know about Fred.
Oh yeah. And it like the idea being like, would I be happier if I had fewer decisions to make, and if I only had like one cup that was the cup that I used for everything all the time and always, then like what I've been able to do is basically just like pre-decide like hundreds or thousands of decisions over the course of a year, because it's like I don't need to choose like which cup I'm going to like drink this beer or glass of wine or like, you know, my morning coffee or like whatever. It's like it's all the same cup always.
Right.
And so similarly, like whenever I have like thought about like van life, it's like, man, how great would it be if like instead of trying to like maintain like, your home and a couple of bathrooms and your yard and like growing a garden and having, I don't know, flowers on your front porch or pumpkins or like whatever, depending on the season, a wreath on your door. Like, there's all these like little things you're just like deciding or involved with all the time.
All the time.
And it's almost like, man, if you lived in a van, then you could just like, take away so many of those variables and you would just have like, again, like you'd have like Fred the One True Cup, but like for everything.
Yeah.
Like you don't have like 10 different seats in your house where you could like sit down to read a book. You've got like the one space.
Right.
Or your folding chair that you like bust out and sit next to the van or whatever. But similarly, this is like one of those things where as I started like digging into it, you're like, oh man, like van life, this could be so cool. And it's like some of the vans that you see, and probably the ones that like really make you aspirational about it, like there is an off chance, depending on your specific circumstances, that they just cost as much as your house did.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's like for me, it's like, I'm like, I mean, that they're like the thing that I covet, I guess, like when I imagine it, is sort of like the Sprinter van with like all the
all the freedom and the lack of responsibility to make tons of decisions.
Exactly. Yeah. But then once you get into it, it's like, man, this is like this is not the most enterable realm.
Yeah. But I guess, but what's interesting, what I'm curious about with backpacking is that like now, at least after we go after this trip, if we wanted to go again, I'd already have all the stuff.
That is also true.
Right? It's like, now I'll just have the stuff. And I'm like, I'm also very like curious to the point where it's like, now I will have all the stuff, but like, I'm like, will the next trip result in being like, well, these are the things I didn't like, so now I need all these other things. Or like, well, now we're going in like the winter, so the sleeping bag's not going to cut it. And it's like will the fact that you have the stuff stop you from continuing to buy the stuff?
This is another good question too, because like a lot of times, and this goes back to the decision making thing, where it's like once you own the tent, it's sort of like, okay, I own the tent. And this may depend on your personality, but it's like once you have it, then maybe you stop needing to like make a decision about it, which is helpful. But like before you have it, like that potential energy to own it, it's like now is when you're having to like weigh the various variables and like literally put together like an Excel sheet where it's like, okay, so like at 5 pounds, we can get it for 125, 4 pounds, we can get it for 227, 3 pounds, whatever, and it's like, you're like plotting the math and being like, okay, like what is the cross section of these decisions and stuff. So my hope would be that like once you have it, it'll just be like, this is what we've got now.
Yeah.
Like no need to worry about it any further. Like I carry a 3.5 pound tent.
That's
who I am.
That's who I am. That's how I do things over here. Yeah. Stuff like I don't foresee like, have you been making any of your decisions based around like the potential for like Alice to go with you in the future?
Oh, this is actually where I thought you were going to go when you talked about future trips, because there's the like this is like not an ask that we put on our families very often, which is the thought of like us going and doing something so purely recreational. Like you and I have a fantastic job where sometimes it means like our work trip is going to Disney to like maybe bring publicity to like a new
preview a new ride
or something. So it's like it has not never been the case that you and I have left to go do something that was exceedingly fun, but it's like no matter what, it still was, we were doing it for work purposes,
right?
So it's not a very common thing for us to just be like, yeah, we're gonna go and do like we're just gonna go and have fun for the weekend. You can hold down the fort, right?
Yeah.
And so that is the other aspect of backpacking on some level, is the very nature of backpacking is being gone for at minimum a night.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just a hike, which is also fine. Hikes are fun. So for me, my mind has slowly started shifting that way, where it's like, I wonder if I need to start considering, like, if we're going to do this more often, like Alice probably needs a kit, but then I just don't know, like, whether or not she would want to use the kit.
Yeah. This is the thing. It's like in your mind, this seems like this is what I think I was like going through. Like yesterday, I pulled the trigger like on the tent I got, and it's a 1-man tent.
Awesome.
And like all like it seems like there's varying conventional wisdom about the size of tent you should get whenever you're going backpacking or something. Like some people will say like, yeah, no, if it's just going to be you, then just get a 1 person. But some people say like, no, always get one person bigger than what you get because you want somewhere to put your pack or whatever, fill in the blank reasons, whatever. I just went for 1 person tent. I'm going to sleep in there. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
But like afterwards, I was really like, now if Beth ever came with us, I would now have to get a new tent because there's absolutely no way we're both going to fit in there. But then I was like, then I started having this exact sign, and I was like, and if Beth ever came with me, man, then I have to do all this purchasing all over again. Like we'd have to get more sleeping bags, another backpack, and I'd get shoes, and then at the same time, like I went through like this quick spiral, but then I feel like I immediately just resolved it. I was like, there's no chance Beth ever comes on these trips. Like there's no like it's not happening. I will not be making any decisions around whether or not Beth wants to come on a 3-day hike in the woods. Like answer is she doesn't.
She doesn't. Yeah. And the good news is that like I feel like if she ever did, if that day does come, it's like the good news is like you don't even have to operate as if that's going to be something like that like needs to be concerned, because if it ever does become a concern, it's like that would also probably just come side by side with the support to then fulfill that order, so to speak. So it's like she may never want to go, but even if she does, like then that enthusiasm is enough to like probably drive you towards like, yeah, it's worth like going through it again so that we can do this together.
Yeah, for sure. And then like I don't think it's like outside the realm that like we go like camping as a family or something.
That's
but for that it's just like I understand that part of that would just be getting a way larger tent than would even be under consideration for this particular activity.
Yes, like car camping, there is something, like we did a lot of it as kids. I feel like mom and dad would frequently bring us car camping, and we would have like a cooler and a tent and an air mattress and all that type of stuff. And I feel like the amazing thing about car camping is that all of a sudden all of the weight related like ideas. It's like they don't matter at all. You know, it's like if the tent
all
weighs
in the
like
car.
If it weighs 40 pounds, I'll just lug it,
Right.
Like I can carry it 25 feet from the back of the car to like
exactly
the cinder pad.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. But I will say that this is like one of those things where like whenever I do get excited about something, I do think my mind very quickly ventures into that like, I'd love to share this with Alice. This would be fun.
Here's the thing. You already are.
Well, that's true.
You're already sharing it with her.
Well, you know what? And the good news, like, you're not wrong, because I also feel like she has super enjoyed the planning aspect of it with me.
Mm-hmm.
Like she loves like laying out all the gear like on the dining room table, and she's had fun like working on like the weights with me.
Right.
And like, when I'm like, oh, I can't decide like this or this, she's like, that one. So like she's been great and very supportive about like trying to help me figure it out. Because of course, when I think I got back from the last trip, she was probably the number one person who heard me like be like, my back is killing me. I'm so sore. Like I carried too much weight. Like, I was just dying. So I think she's even trying to like preemptively sort of like ward off any type of recovery that may
any
come.
Injury or whatever.
Yeah. Oh man. So either which way, I'm very excited about doing this particular hike, because the inspiration behind doing it is because Jay and I are going to be doing a live episode of the Popcorn Culture at an event in Roanoke called Go Outside Festival, or as we like to call it, Go
Fest.
It's taking place on October 15th. The event itself actually takes place from October 14th through the 16th, but on the Saturday at 2 p.m. here in Roanoke, Virginia, Jay and I are going to be doing a live episode of the Pop. It is free to enter GoFest. It is free to attend the live taping. So it's just going to be like a really kind of cool, fun, exciting, hopefully popcorn culture event that we intend to record the episode. So in the event that you
Yes.
don't happen to be there in person, it is our goal to also have that episode eventually be live.
Yes,
But
you should still be able to listen to it.
Yes, I just think it's going to be so cool though to have the episode, have the banter, have all that, like with also like the crowd noise, and like, you know, maybe like people like laughing or making hopefully they laugh.
Hopefully there's people there watching.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We're at a festival. Why did we spend an hour watching these guys talk?
I know. Yeah. I feel like this is like the, like, you know, like quietly, like behind the hand. It's like but like other people might not know why we're there doing it. So like we need some backup. Otherwise we're gonna be like,
Ben, everyone there is gonna be like, those are the guys from that billboard.
Exactly. Roanoke's #1 podcast.
There they are.
Oh my gosh. But so like the reason I bring it up, other than just to remind you that we're doing this particular thing and we'd love to see you there, is just that when they invited us to do it, there was also this sort of like I think that they know, especially because our dad is like very involved in like just outdoor recreation, like advocacy here in the Roanoke Valley. And so I think that sort of like by way of like all the various like connective tissue and stuff, they know that like we're sort of like we like mountain biking and doing like outdoorsy stuff and all that type of thing. But when they asked us to come on and do the pop, they were like, and you can talk about outdoor stuff. Like it was like one of these things where I could tell they were like, it's a good idea to invite these guys, but also,
right, like they have a lot of integrity about what the event is supposed to be about,
which is fair, because I mean it is so absolute, like everything to do with the event is like very outdoors
and it's like
oriented.
every single booth is like outdoorsy in some way. It's not just like, oh yeah, it's an outdoor festival and like 80% of it's that, but also just like any brand in Roanoke that wants to set up a tent, they can just buy a tent space. It's
right, like
nope.
they vet like the vendors and stuff like that to make sure, you know, that it all tracks, it all makes sense. So when they asked that, I was like, okay, like I want to make sure that we have something outdoorsy that we can have slated. Because and the thing is that we have plenty of these stories, but we've told so many of them here on the pop that I'm like, we need a news story.
We gotta go big.
Yeah, and so as we are literally planning a full 3-day, 2-night hike, excursion, adventure, so that we have new memories to talk about.
And there will be.
There, like that's the one thing I know for sure, absolutely, unequivocally, is that there will be new stories that come from this event.
Ben, let me ask you something. Have you done any planning in your packing for bears?
I don't think so. Like, so I
like,
know.
do you have like do we know if anyone on the trip is bringing like a bear bag or something, like hang in the tree or something?
We did last time.
Yeah.
We did do it last time. We had, so when I was in college, I'm going to give you some backstory because this is the pop and it's what we do.
Yeah.
When I was in college, my junior year, I signed up for a study abroad where I was going to go to Australia and New Zealand. And I really wanted to like find a way to raise some money so that I had like extra spending money on the trip and just in general to pay for the trip, which was just otherwise pretty expensive to do. And so the thing that I had come up with was making these paracord bracelets.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you've seen them like at a checkout counter or something like that before, but they're kind of like this interesting knotted pattern that kind of just like looks cool. And like what you end up with is, I think it ends up being about 12 feet total of paracord that like in an emergency situation you could then like unravel and like, you know, tie between two trees, throw like a tarp over it so that you could have like a quick like makeshift, you know, air quotes shelter, that type of thing. And so during that time in 2011, I had bought probably somewhere in the proximity of like 5,000 feet of paracord.
Right, and you were just like making the bracelets while you watch TV.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, I would go to my classes. I had them like all hanging from my backpack. I had like little signs. My friends told their friends. I had like a Facebook page where people could contact me, and I would go meet them in the quad and sell them for like $5 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was one of these things where I was like, oh, this would be a great plan. I think I made like $350. I don't know, what does that math out to in terms of sales? Like 60 to 70 bracelets.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
that makes sense. 70.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I was like, okay, not too bad.
Yeah.
But my hands were completely destroyed.
I bet,
so much nodding.
Maybe you should have been charging a little more for these bracelets,
I know, but by the end of it, it's like, oh yeah, man, this is probably too much.
Yeah, it's like that. It costs so much because it takes me.
Oh,
whatever.
yes, like the TikTok sound. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But so as a result, last time that we went on the hike, I've talked before about my pack being way too heavy, but one of the things that I brought was just this like massive spool of paracord. And
I don't think I've heard that one yet.
Oh my gosh,
Ben, I so wish I could have helped you pack.
I know.
I wish I was just there with you to be like, no.
Bad idea.
Bad idea.
I wish so. I also, the other one I famously brought was an entire jar of peanut butter, which weighed a whole pound on its own.
Yeah.
Which now, if something weighs a pound that is in my pack, it is because it is either absolutely necessary or it has been given a huge amount of consideration. Because nothing that it's like a pound doesn't sound like much, but it is too much.
It's a bunch.
When you're carrying it. So anyway, when I was going through my pack this time and pulling everything out and being so mad at myself for everything I brought last time, one of those things was the cord that I had brought to hang our food from a tree from.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not bringing it.
I'm not bringing it.
I don't know what my plan is otherwise, if it's just that like I'm either not that worried, which is maybe a little bit foolish, or I don't know, like do you have thoughts on this? Because like my inclination is to not bring my paracord again.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't bring the whole spool by any means. Maybe like 20 feet or something.
Sure.
I don't know.
That seems more
that
fair.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah.
But I only this is the battle going on in my brain right now. Like do I think we are going to be visited by bears? Absolutely not. I'm absolutely certain it's not a problem at all. But also, what if they come?
I know. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's like this is like one of those where it's like, man, and I know that like every survival show that I've ever watched, they've always like I think even I've recommended the show Alone before. Maybe even talked about it last week.
Yeah.
They're only allowed 10 survival items total.
Yeah.
Is like one of the other like things, but I'm pretty sure that they give them bear spray.
Okay.
As one of those items. Like they're not making you decide whether or not to bring bear spray because it's like that's a matter of like potential life and death in a lot of situations, and it's like, it's not like I don't even know that anybody's ever actually had to use it, but it's like you like probably should have it just so that because you don't like you versus a bear wins, like
you figure most of the time, right? So there's that. Like I think I was thinking about it mostly because of when I bought the tent, I was like, a one-man tent, boom, and it does have like a little like vestibule off the side. So like if you, I'm assuming my pack will just fit inside, but if not, like you can just put your pack like right there in the vestibule, so it's still like sheltered.
Yeah, yep, I got you. Yep.
Yeah, like that's sort of the plan. And I was like, all I'm imagining is just like, what if I have food in there and I wake up and there is a bear next to my tent?
That would be terrifying.
And I'm like, I know the solution to this. All you gotta do is like hang your food in a bear bag. This is like there is a guaranteed way to prevent this from happening. But is anyone accounting for that? Is anyone on this, or are we just gonna be like, it probably won't happen?
I know. And I remember last time that we were out there, like we had gotten to the end of the day, and I have to tell you that I was like a dead man walking.
Yeah.
By the end of this day, like I mean, I remember going and like pathetically sitting on like the log next to the fire, and like the act of boiling my water to put it into like my instant meal thing was like about all I had left in me at the end of this day. And it was the good news was that eating helped tremendously anyway. But I remember afterwards we were like kind of like you were all hanging about the fire, we're kind of talking and stuff like that, and I was like literally just fighting the minutes that were passing like, until I could just like make the excuse.
I'm just going to bed.
Yeah, to go to bed. And I remember somebody being like, should we hang it from a tree, like all our food and stuff? And it was like one of those things where I think everybody was kind of like, now that we've talked about it, it's like if nobody had brought it up, it probably would have been fine. But now we kind of like, we probably should. It's like it's like one of those things like anything else. It's like it's best practices.
Yeah.
Like, it's the right thing to do, but like, that also means we got to go and like tie the rope around a rock and throw the rock over a branch and like tie that to something and all this type of stuff. And it was dark and raining and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah. What bear's coming out in the rain to eat our food?
Our freeze-dried food and gorp.
Jeez.
Anyway, so we did it. Maybe we should talk about it and figure out a plan.
Yeah, perhaps.
Otherwise, like 2 weeks from now, the episode of The Pop's going to be like, bear attack.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't, man. Think about the content.
Oh my gosh.
We were attacked by bears.
We should, 2 weeks from now, we should name the episode Bear Attack. Just
either way.
No matter what. Yeah. And the people who are in are like, no, they didn't.
Like,
no,
what? Now I got to know.
Yeah, like what happened?
What happened with the bears?
We're going for a hike. Episode next. Bear attack.
Oh gosh, I so hope not. I so hope bears aren't a thing on our hike. The last time you guys said you guys ran into like a rattlesnake.
We
or
ran
a snake.
Yeah, we ran into. I think it was like if you hadn't asked me, I would have known the exact type of snake. I think it had a rattle on it, so I guess it was a rattlesnake. Yeah. And it was like, I mean, it was a big snake. Like it could have been in a zoo.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, because I've seen like black snakes out before. I've seen like your classic garden variety snakes, stuff like that. Like, and I wouldn't even say I've seen many snakes in the wild many times, but this was like it could have been an Animal Planet, like, I mean, it was like the stance, the look, the size, the position.
Like, I dare you. I dare you.
I know. And like, we like, basically it was like 100 yards into the hike and we had to like the path was basically before us. So like take your hands at shoulder width and the path was that big. And we had to walk past it. And like none of us were about to mess with this snake at all. And the most likely scenario was that it was just hanging out in the sun and it wanted nothing to do with us anyway. But either way, there was like 3.5 steps that you had to take where you were like, I mean, maybe not even within striking distance, but like not far from it.
Right. Like you're yeah.
So it was like, well, these are the 3 scariest steps I've ever taken in my life. Like, here we go.
Here we go.
Hopefully the good news, well, good news, very relative terms, was that it was so close, like that we could have, in the event anything bad happened, we were close to cars.
Right. Like
we could have left.
We'll just be leaving.
Be like, you know what? This was a good thought. Maybe we'll try again next year. Maybe not. But hopefully it'll be cooler.
You guys want to go find a Denny's or something?
A Denny's sounds great right now. A Denny's sounds great.
Yeah, so
nothing soaks up snake venom like a good flapjack covered in whipped cream.
Exactly. You just rub that on the wound, you're gonna be fine.
You're gonna be fine.
Maple syrup sucks out snake venom.
Unconfirmed.
Don't try that, please.
There you go.
You'll probably just attract flies.
Okay, so speaking of this, because I feel like there's a place for us to tangent, and we've been talking about our hike for a solid 40 minutes now.
Well, that's what I'm thinking about a lot. So.
No, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. Like this happens all the time to me, where it's like we end up talking about the same things because it's like I can't help it. The good news is, or at the very least, when I look back on all the various pops, it's like you can see like the eras where like we were like mountain biking a lot, and it's like. There was no episode where we got there without talking about mountain biking.
This is what life is about,
Right. So
you go through different seasons.
Marking chapters of our lives. Exactly. And maybe we're encouraging people to engage in some of these activities, which is, for some reason, it's always the thing that like I hope for the most. It's like...
Right. And someone else is going to go backpacking now.
Right. Yeah. And then somebody will like send me like a letter, or an email, an electronic mail, and they'll be like, Ben, you suggested something on the pop and I did it. And now I feel like happier with who I am.
Yeah, that's exactly what all the emails are going to say from the people who did the air squats earlier.
Oh, I bet you're right.
Yeah, they're going to be
we're going to get one email. It's going to be like, I just did it. I feel so invigorated and alive. And then it's going to be like a follow-up email from the next morning. It's like, I hate you.
My legs hurt.
I can't even walk up the steps.
My legs hurt real bad.
You know what? No shame for what it's worth. No shame. Mm-hmm. Every single time it's been like 10 days since I've done like a leg day, and I do a leg day, I can't walk up the stairs.
Oh, yeah. When we were doing like under the bar, heavy power squats there for a couple years there, like as long as you hit it every single week, it was fine. But if you happened to miss squat day because you were out of office or something, or you were sick, or you were on a trip, and then you came back the next week, just 1 week off, it was like, prepare for the pain, dude.
And then even worse would be that you miss the week before and you come back and then you get on a plane and fly to London, where then you jump off of a fountain onto the ground and feel like your legs have seized up so aggressively that they are now like your tendons are tangled into a thick knot.
Wow, no good at all. No. I did, as I was leaving the gym on Wednesday, I was like, yo, Gabriel, I don't know what the schedule is next week, but if Monday or Wednesday is leg day, I would request that we change it, or I'm just not going to come those days because we got that hike next week.
Oh, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah,
you give them a heads up. Yeah, that's perfect. We're in good shape. Anyway, so this is I don't even know if I can find a way to like make this like a tangent that makes sense, but maybe we'll think of something. Okay. So we were just on a call earlier today where someone explained to me a new term, and I found it absolutely fascinating. And so I was like, I got to talk about it on the pop because maybe people will also find this interesting.
Did you look up more about it?
I did look up a little bit more about it. There are other examples that I also thought were very interesting, like that sort of apply to everyday life. So the term is called survivorship bias.
Ooh.
And the very, very, very common example of survivorship bias is during World War II, planes that were returning from various battles were inspected and heat maps were built to determine where the most number of like bullet holes existed, basically, so that they knew how to better engineer the planes for future endeavors.
Right.
And basically, when you look at the heat map of the plane, so just imagine like an aerial photo or outline, like a blueprint drawing of a plane, and like the tail, the cockpit, and like the edges of both of the wings are just like peppered in red dots.
Right.
And then sort of like the spaces in between have like not even like fewer dots, they have no dots. And the question would be, where would you improve the plane's armor so that the plane can perform better in future bouts? And your immediate knee-jerk reaction when you see this is like, well, just look at the heat map, like the tips of the wings, the cockpit, the tail, like it's lit up. It is getting shot a bunch. And it's like, that's like sort of like the idea of like the fallacy of the survivorship bias.
Right.
Because what's actually happening is that you need to improve the areas that have no bullet wounds.
Right.
Because because the planes came back, like these are the ones that returned.
Right.
And so the idea is that the ones that took shots in those areas were the ones that went down. You know, so
or the ones that took shots where all the red dots are the ones that came back.
Correct.
Meaning it's okay to be hit in those spots.
Exactly.
Yes.
You're explaining it better than I
am.
Yes. So it's like on the heat map, the area where no shots were located at all, it's like if all you're using is the data from planes that came back, then that's not that informative because these planes made it back.
Right.
Like they already returned.
They endured the hits.
So like the big area to me was the space between like the cockpit and the tail. So like the tail and the cockpit both kind of make sense as like logical targets. But I think that like the fuel is in the middle space there. And so it's like none of the planes that came back had any shots there, because if you get shot there, then you don't have fuel.
And then you down.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Then it's going to go down. And so I was like, man, this is like, it's so fascinating to me because of how easily you would you wouldn't apply quite enough critical thinking to the situation, and you'd be like, the cockpit, the tips of the wings, the tail,
Right. This is where they're aiming.
Quadruple reinforce those, like, and then it's like, and it makes, the idea would be that it wouldn't make that much difference altogether because planes already return even though they're being hit in those locations. But then what's even more fascinating about it is I found a masterclass article on survivorship bias, and they gave a few different examples that apply to everyday life. And one of them is like the phrase that I'm sure everybody has ever heard, which is they don't make them like they used to.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. We've talked about it many times.
Yeah.
Can I tell you about my terrible washing machine?
They don't make them like they used to.
They don't.
But the idea here is that, like, if you're looking at things that have survived the test, like the test of time, and they're still there, then those are the hot spots on that drawing of the plane. Like, these are the exceptions. Like, these objects that have stood the test of time, like, are not the rule. They're like almost the exception.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it's like like let's say you have a washing machine from like 1970,
yeah,
and it's still running, and it's better than like the new ones they have on the shelves. I think there's actually some like factual truth to that sentiment.
Sure.
They like literally used to make them better, but like that is the example of the thing that did stand the test of time. It's not representative of everything you could have bought in 1970. It's like, of course, now after the fact, once you've seen it survive so long, you say like, oh, they don't make them like they used to. Look how good this old washing machine is. But how many other things from 1970 are still working?
Right.
Like otherwise, like, no, well, we did have to replace the blender, and like, oh, we do have a new toaster, and the fridge, gave out after so long. And maybe these are bad examples because they're all small home appliances, and whatever. But the idea is that like it's not necessarily wholly true that they used to make things better than they do today.
Right.
It's just the things that they used to make that still made it to today are things that were made of such high quality that they did make it.
Right.
Another common example would be like, I know that there could be like the phrase like I'm 99 years old and I've smoked a pack of cigarettes every day of my life or whatever, but it's like that's like the exception, not the rule. If that makes sense. It's like how many of the other, people out there didn't. So it's like it's not a good statistical like sample size.
All the people who smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, one of them does have to live the longest.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So I thought it was just very interesting because it not so much like this example itself, but it has to do with the interpretation of data in general and how your first and most immediate way of interpreting that data is not always the most effective or like critical way of interpreting that data.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like it feels very counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Like, and again, like the plane example, this is probably why it's like the trademark example, but like, if you're showing these drawings, you're an engineer and you're showing them to like the general or the president, or I don't know who commissions planes, but that person, then like, if you're like, yeah, look
the general contractor.
Whoa, dude.
Is that better than Too Tired?
Oh, that's better than Too Tired. That's like a lot better. That was really good.
Thank you.
But like, yeah, like, if you're sitting there showing them this heat map and you're like, hey, you see these areas where we didn't take any shots? We're going to reinforce those. Like the general contractor is going to be like, no.
No.
Like, you see, cockpit, see this?
They're not even aiming there.
Yeah, I know, yeah. No, nobody that comes back.
Yeah, that's where you see these clean spots. The people who didn't come back, that's where they got it.
Yeah. If we could get all those planes back, that's what we'd find.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, man, it's just like, how often, because it doesn't even feel like a reach at all to not look at this data in the most obvious way. Like it would not surprise me if in like 7 out of 10 instances, the person would just look at the heat map and improve the heat map.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if you put this online and said like, here's a shot. Here's a picture of where planes that returned have been hit by fire, where do you think we should reinforce them? I would bet that, like 70% of people would just say we should improve the spots that got hit. And then like another 20% of people would say that you should do the unhit spots, but only because they felt like it was a trick question.
Yeah.
And then 10% more people would actually arrive at the correct answer for the correct reason.
Yes. No, I agree with that. I think those are perfect. That's a perfect like layout of like the statistics, because I'm sure I remember that like grandma and grandpa had this book when we were kids, and it was just sort of like a type of book you might like, I don't know, maybe this will sound weird, like you might like leave next to like the toilet or something like that. You know, it's just sort of like a flippable, like which of these lines isn't straight or something like that. And like, you know, there's like a straight line, and then there's like another line that has like a circle that's like wrapped through it, and half of the line is like white and the other half is like black, and it like looks curved, but it's like the trick is that they're both straight.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Just like, it's like any other optical illusion.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like any other optical illusion. That's what I was attempting to describe too. But I remember as a kid, I started looking at these, and it would be like, nope, both lines are straight. And I'd be like, horse.
Yeah.
You know,
like, no,
that's
they are
true.
not.
That's not true. And like, you know, you like fold the page, and you're like, oh, it is true. How about that?
Wow.
But so then I got like 6-7 pages into these examples, and at some point in time, you just get extremely good at realizing like the two circles are the same size, even though they really don't look like it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's like once you know you're looking at optical illusions, then you can always pick out. Then it's like what the trick is always obvious.
Exactly, because it's like whatever doesn't seem right is definitely just like.
What's really tricky is if you could go through and just look at like a ton of optical illusions, and every now and then like one was just like, nope, it actually is a curved line.
Oh yeah, that's true.
It'd be like, oh, now we're getting real tricky.
That would mess with me.
Yeah.
That would mess with me. It would make me question everything.
Exactly.
Which is bad, because I already do question everything. Mm-hmm. So I question everything doubly.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think you're exactly right there. There would be those people that would be like, well, this is obvious. Like clearly they want you to, it's like either the heavily hit areas or the non-hit areas.
Right.
Like for some reason it's the non-hit areas.
Yeah.
I don't understand why.
Right. Like I see what I feel I'm being lured to a trap.
Yes.
Yeah. And I shall fool you. And like, yes, but why? So that I'm not wrong? Wrong.
Wrong. Not a good reason.
No.
You're right, but also wrong at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh man, how often does that happen?
Probably a lot.
You said the right thing, but for the wrong reason.
Oh boy, welcome to Twitter.
That's funny.
Welcome to Twitter. Here's a loud opinion that lots of people will agree with.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have to live with it, but look at all these points I got with people who I don't know. I feel better about myself. Let me go read someone else's tweet. It's the same thing. I disagree with them. I hate it. The cycle continues.
I think you did a really good job of
Thank you.
Basically breaking Twitter down into like a one-man play.
It's yeah. Welcome to my one-man show. Twitter doom scrolling.
Dude, that would be a really, really, real. Like, do you remember in the TV show Friends? I think that like they somehow, some way, Chandler ends up going to like it's like a one-woman show.
Joey is hosting a Days of Our Lives party on the roof of the building where they all live. And every year he's embarrassed to invite the other 5 core members of the cast to the party, specifically Monica and Rachel, who he's afraid are going to freak out. But they totally catch him in the act, and everyone's like, Joey, you have to invite us to the party. And everyone realizes that there's a party on the roof except Chandler,
who ends up going to like the off-Broadway play that Joey bought them tickets to.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, if you've seen the show, or if you can just imagine, this would be like such a hilarious and funny one-man show. It's just like talking about Twitter as like one person. You just like rant for like an hour and a half.
You just get on Twitter at the start of every show. Oh, this is good.
It's like no matter what, there's always content available.
Something.
Yeah.
How long does it take before the whole audience is mad?
Yeah. Oh man, what a legacy Twitter has.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about something lighter. There is a note here in our show notes that says Luke is using surprising deductive reasoning.
Oh yeah, man. So let's see. This morning, I was talking to Luke last night before I went to bed, and one of the things he does a lot of times, like we've had this like slow progression of how Luke wakes up in the mornings.
Okay.
Where like you don't like his room is across from the twins' room, and what you don't want is for like Luke to wake up and then be frustrated that he cannot leave his room. And so he starts yelling and wakes everybody up.
Okay.
Like, this is no good. There's no way around the fact that Luke is just an early riser. Like, this is just a true fact. You know, he gets up at 6:30 almost every single day. We can't do much about it.
It's gonna pay off when school starts, though.
At some point, yeah. So we got, for a while we had like this little like, you know, alarm clock light in his room, and it's still in there, and it like turns green at, you know, a certain point. And it's like, when the light turns green, then you can come out. But like he started waking up like an hour before that would happen, and he just like, you know, he would get so mad that the light wasn't green yet that it was ineffective. You know, he couldn't entertain himself. It wasn't like he'd wake up and it'd be like, oh, it's green, I could leave. You know,
right. Yeah. I mean, that becomes a big ask at some point for like a 4-year-old to have an unknown amount of hours long patience.
Yeah. So that maybe it'll come back around at some point. But so then. We were like, he would get up and he would come down. He would, you know, come wake us up to be like, can, you know, come downstairs so I can like, you know, help him turn on the TV or whatever, because he doesn't like know how to do it. And so like our old Apple remote broke, so we bought a new one that had like much clearer buttons on it.
Okay.
So almost specifically so we could show Luke how to use it so that in the morning when he woke up, he could go downstairs and do this himself.
I love it. Okay.
Yeah. And that worked out. He learned how to use it, but he would wake up, and before he would go downstairs, he'd come wake me up and go and just inform me that he was going downstairs. Like, Daddy, I'm going to go wait downstairs for you. And I'd be like, you can just go do that. No need to inform me of this departure. Okay. And that was like, oh, now I'm just awake. You know, there's a 0% chance of going back to sleep after that. So that was always a little frustrating.
You are cursed by the fact that like once you have been awoken, you can't, like, it seems like you can't go back asleep.
It's not one of my stronger suits for sure.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've gotten to the point now where like, Luke he'll like just get up and go all the way downstairs and just not bother me at all, which is fantastic. Or I think the way we now what's happening though is that sometimes he'll get down there and it'll get to the point where like, because it'll get like past 7 or something, and like, oh my God, did I actually get to sleep in? But Luke will start just getting hungry, which is also a fair need. You know, you got to go feed him and stuff. But then he'll come up and be like, I'm hungry. And it's like, yeah, that's fair. And, you know, it'll be past 7, so the light will be green. So whatever. That's what happened today. I woke up like right in the middle of a REM cycle. I was just zonked. I was completely out. And Luke wants me to get him food and stuff. And I can hear the twins crying upstairs. Like, okay, I gotta go get them. I gotta get coffee. And it's like, it'll be easier if you're all getting breakfast at the same time. And I'm like, going to go up the stairs. And he's like, no, you don't. No, Mommy's getting them. And I'm like, no, I don't think she is. I haven't heard her get up. And he like goes to the bottom end of the stairs, and he like brings me over there, and he's like, look, listen, the sound machine is off. That means Mommy's in there getting the twins. And I was just like, I stood there, I thought about it, I was like, actually, you're right. Like, that is what it means, because the sound machine was on. And I was like, that is like really observant of you to like notice specifically that the sound machine had been turned off, and thus Mommy was in the room getting the twins up. And sure enough, she was. I was like, that was pretty good, Luke. That was pretty good.
That is pretty good.
I was impressed by your reasoning just there.
He would be the 1 in 10 who said that the plane needed to be fixed in the right locations for the right reasons.
Yeah, I was like, that was pretty smart. I was impressed. I was really tired, and I continued to feel tired until like noon. But
yeah, no, this is that. Actually, that is very impressive. It's like he's like taking in so many of like all the individual little like signs, you know, that like that could mean something. And it's kind of fascinating because I mean, like, not to try to like take too much of a leap here in terms of like how these things can be connected, but like that is not entirely dissimilar to like what we do like with the kind of like the theory crafting type stuff for the main Super Carlin Brothers channel. It's like, you know, your goal at times is to like not just like slide right past like a potential plot hole and let it go like as if it's just like a part of the story. It's like, no, let's dig into that.
Yeah.
Like,
that doesn't make sense. Or does it?
Or does it? Or
right.
How do we make it make sense?
How do we make it make sense?
because there must be a way. There's always a way.
There's pretty much always a way.
Yeah. I mean, so far.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, right.
Continue the trend. That is really funny, though, because I did even notice when we were... this was something that kind of blew my mind a little bit, because we went to the lake a couple weekends ago, and our families were all down there together and everything. And it would be very interesting to me the number of times where, like, Luke will ask the question, why? And I couldn't believe how effective it was at like throwing me off. Yeah. Like, you know, like I would be getting ready to, like I would need to run up to the house to grab something or to use the restroom or like something like that. You know, just like something simple where I was like leaving the dock, you know, to go back up to the house. And he'd be like, where are you going? And I'm like, oh, I have to run back up to the house. Why? Like, well, I need to grab some things. Why? And it was like, this is going to get really hard to answer at some point. Like,
yeah.
It was like, I'm like, am I just not being direct enough? Like, should I just be like, here are the reasons that I need to go up to the house?
Right.
You know, or it's like, is it like one of those things where it's like, he's just trying to slow me down. So it's like, the explanation doesn't matter at all. The more that he successfully stalls you, the more that he's already won.
Right.
Like you might always be leaving. He might always know that you're leaving, but he has a very high percentage rate of slowing you down from leaving.
Right. This is exactly, yeah. And this is what was like tripping me up this morning too. Cause it's like in my mind, all you really are doing is trying to stop me from getting Nick and Nate up, because then they will command attention away from you, or you don't want me to go upstairs because right now I'm downstairs with you. And you know, like you're just saying anything to make this reality remain the same. And it'd be like, and then you get down and it's like, no, mommy's doing it. Listen. And it was like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, you're right. Like I made a false assumption about the information you had and what your motives were.
Misread the motives of a 4-year-old.
I don't know if I did misread the motives. I misread the amount of ammunition.
That's really funny. Oh, Luke. I am so excited to see him grow up. It's going to be so fascinating to see how he puts that brain to use.
Oh my gosh, the past few nights I'm trying to make this the new pre-bedtime routine. They come in phases, and they come and go out of fashion as these things do.
Yeah.
The past few nights we've like set up the chessboard, and we'll just sort of like move the pieces around.
Yeah.
Or, I guess we'll play a game, but like Luke doesn't have any concept of trying to checkmate my king or something,
Right.
It's mostly just like, it's your turn. And he'd be like, I'm going to move this here. And I'd be like, well, you can only move it to here or here. And he'd be like, okay, I'm going here. And he'd be like, okay, then it's my turn. And then it's like, then I'm going here. And I'd be like, if you do that, I'm going to take your horsey. And he's like, no,
But I mean, like, that's like the most fundamental, like entry point to just learning chess.
Yeah.
It's like nobody, well, other than like Queen's Gambit girl.
Yeah.
But like for the most part, nobody plays chess and is like, okay. Like starting to like see how like everybody works together as a team, and like this move is like, like you're starting to like really like
that.
Yeah, like understand like all the like the multi-layered looking 10 steps ahead strategy that goes into it. It's like you got to know on the most basic level where the pieces go.
Exactly. So that's really my goal right now. It's like I'll set up my side of the board, and then he'll just like copy the piece setup, and then we'll just like take turns moving pieces and learning how each piece moves. So that's mostly my goal. Let's get familiar with moving the pieces.
You are going to be so set, I feel like, once he is old enough to just contend with you.
Yeah.
Because I feel like
he's going to beat me.
I feel like you have your whole life been waiting for like the always on ready opponent, and it's going to be Luke. And it's going to
be a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just get beat in chess too.
You're going to get it. Yeah, it's going to become amazing. What I actually think will happen is that we'll get really into the Pokemon trading card game, and Luke will just be able to come in and basically be full access to a huge amount of library of cards.
Yeah.
And also have like a brain that's like a sponge.
Yeah.
And you as a coach.
Yeah.
So
we're going to be good, hopefully.
He's got a lot of the right like trappings to become like
he's already got a lot of Pokemon cards too. So, we're working there. He's excited about the game.
Loves those eyeball energies.
Exactly. Got love the eyeball energies. He loves especially really, really colorful cards.
Yeah.
He has this is the other thing. He has like an absolute scent for it. Like we're opening there's a new set that's just dropped, Lost Origin. Had a box at the house the other night. I was opening it up, and to my, me and Beth are just watching the Rings of Power, and I could not believe it. I pulled like one of the absolute rarest cards in the set. I was just like, I gasped out loud, and I was like, Beth, look at this. And she's like, yeah, whatever. I sent a picture to like everyone else I knew who plays the games, including you, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you pulled that." It's the alt art Giratina V. If you're sitting there wondering, and you're like, "Wow, good job, Jay." But
way to go and pull that random card.
Way to pull that random card and now own it. I was very excited. But so I finished opening the rest of the box, and I put all my cards and the rare ones in the sleeves, and I put my little box on the island so I wouldn't forget it in the morning. Luke came downstairs ahead of us, of course, and he's just like, "Daddy, Pokemon cards," and he's like holding the one rare card, the big rarest one. He's just like, and I'm like, you can literally take any of the other ones in this entire box. That one I'm gonna need. And he just was like so upset.
I bet so.
I bet so. Like, I'm sorry.
It's a really cool looking card.
It is really cool.
On that note, I didn't even intend for us to reach this stage of the conversation or anything, but as long as we're here, may as well let you know that we do have a new show that we're doing over on our Super Carlin Gaming channel. It is called Box Breakers, and basically we open up packs on each episode that are yours.
That's right.
Yeah, so the patrons of Super Carlin Gaming, it is a different Patreon, just for what it's worth. It's not the same as the Pop's Patreon, but we do have a tier over there where you can basically sign up, and then we will go through, and once a month we will open a pack, and we will mail you the cards inside of that pack. And there's a fun whole scoreboard, leaderboard thing, so you're actually in a kind of sort of very randomly assigned way competing with the other the other people in each episode. It's a lot of fun, and we pulled some really cool cards so far. So that is
immediately. When we started doing this, I knew, inevitably, I just knew that we're gonna open up packs. They're gonna have rarer that we aren't going to have.
I know.
There's gonna be in particular, we pulled this Starmie card in the last episode that has got Misty floating next to her Starmie on it, and it's one of the rare cards. It's one of the really most sought after ones because it features Misty on it.
Yeah, who's one of the OG.
Yeah, it's one of the OG characters, and it's just a really cool looking card. And it's me and Ben probably opened up 9 other boxes of that set, haven't pulled the card.
Yeah,
put it on camera. It's then it's in our hand. And it's oh, we have to send this to someone, which is fine. I do not mind it at all. But it's the inevitability of that happening over and over, I think, is gonna.
I know. It's there is absolutely gonna be the day that comes. Yeah, where we pull something that's just absolutely and that card itself was mind bending. I was oh my gosh, this was the one where when we got the set, it was there's a really cool Misty card in this set. Hopefully we can pull it. We opened up all of our own packs, and then we're on opening for everybody else, and it's wow.
There it is, of course.
There's the pack. So again, that's youtube.com/SuperCarlinGaming if you want to go check it out. The show is called Carlin Brothers Box Breakers. It's been a lot of fun. It's very cool. It's very exciting. And I feel it's a show where I think you and I both, Jay, are getting better at it each time we record.
Yeah, I think so. We've only recorded a few episodes, and it's there's been big gaps between recordings, but once we get going, it's we find a rhythm. So I'm excited to get to the point where we're recording it at a more regular interval and are just in the zone.
In the zone. Yeah. So it's a really fun one. So yeah, if you guys want to go and check that out, please do. Otherwise, I think we're at a fantastic stopping point for this week's episode of The Pop. Thank you guys as ever for tuning in. If you have any feedback for us, or if you did 50 air squats and want to let us know how you were feeling before, during, after, all of the above, you can send all of those thoughts over to popcornculturepod@gmail.com. But otherwise, until next time,
pop.